I would say that our research efforts have helped to contribute to 42% reduction in the breast cancer mortality rate since 1989. There have been 19 new drug approvals in the past decade, and Komen has really played a role in the development of each drug through what we are investing in research. Since our inception, we have invested nearly $1.1 billion, more than any other nonprofit, second only to the U.S. government, in contributing to discoveries and improving outcomes and driving research towards cures.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spotlight Houston, where we bring you the best of the people, places, and events in Greater Houston. This week, we're spotlighting the Susan G. Komen Foundation. We're sitting down with Brandice Pierre, Executive Director of the Gulf Coast Susan G. Komen Foundation, and Hilary Ware, a breast cancer survivor and passionate volunteer. This is episode 108, with an original air date of Monday, October 14, 2024. Spotlight Houston is a production of Story Zone Media. And now your host, Blanca Quezada.
Are you wearing your pink today? I hope so. I know I am. And I'm asking you this question because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we must show our support and do your part to help yourself or other women or men stay healthy. So to me, this is also very important because I am a 20-year survivor, and I want to make sure that I can be an advocate and help everybody out to be informed and know where to get help if you need it. So, and also I think that you have to remember to put your fears aside. You have to be clear-minded if you do get diagnosed and be well-informed and also on how to keep ourselves as women as healthy as possible and how we can get support or provide support to other women going through cancer diagnosis or just becoming aware of it. But we are very fortunate that here in Houston, there is one of the largest and very well-known organizations, not just here in Houston, but worldwide. I think we're the luckiest city because of that. I know that when I needed help, they were there. And so this organization just brings a lot more awareness, a lot more help, not just to the person going through the health issue, but also to their caregivers, to the families, so they can also become aware of what you're going through. And so if you need help, they're there anytime. They have a great helpline. They also provide great services and resources, as well as, like I said, personal support, which is really important. And also, they are very well known around the world for their famous walk and race called Race for the Cure. So it's a lot of fun. Every year, there's hundreds of people that show up, family, even their dogs or their cats. And this year, I know that they're going to have a great event, or they've had a great event with more people this year. And this organization, if you don't happen to know, this organization is the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. Joining me today, I've invited someone that is beautiful, and she has a lot of answers, a lot of information, and she is Brandice Pierre. She is the Executive Director, Gulf Coast here in Houston, and Hilary Ware, who is an amazing and also very beautiful breast cancer survivor. And Hilary is here to discuss her experience and her journey through this whole saga that she went through. Anyway, ladies, welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you were available to join me to discuss this incredible issue that we all need to continue to talk about and discuss. So I know that the organization was created more than 40 years ago. So can you please give us a little more of the story and tell us who Susan G. Komen is? Sure. Susan G. Komen
Susan G. Komen Organization is an organization for breast cancer, people who experience breast cancer, and whether they be men or women. We were founded years ago by Nancy Brinker, and the foundation was created on behalf of her sister, Susan G. Komen, who was at the time experiencing breast cancer and going through all that happens when you find out that you have breast cancer and your family has to maneuver through that. Since then, Susan G. Komen has really created, as you said, a worldwide organization that really focuses on the impact of breast cancer in communities and what we can do about them. We know that every 2 minutes, a woman in the United States is diagnosed with breast cancer. And we know that 1 in 8 women in the United States will face a breast cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. So the work that we do is really focused on research, raising awareness, advocating for health changes in policy, and really making a local impact on our communities. So as you said earlier, we do have a breast care helpline that is designed to help anyone who is concerned about breast cancer. It's designed to help them navigate through understanding their risks, accessing community resources, accessing low or no cost screenings, as well as providing financial assistance. So Susan G. Komen is really focused on supporting women, men, and their families in getting through their breast cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, getting diagnosed with breast cancer is overwhelming. A lot of information just hits you real quick. And it's like, what? What does that mean? But you're there to provide, like you said, an array of services and resources. It's not just about giving people little pamphlets that they can read, or there's an actual person there that you can talk to, right?
Yes, there is.
And the services are for everyone, no matter what your economic status is, right?
Exactly right. Anyone can reach out to our helpline, which is helpline@komen.org, or they can call 1-877-465-6636, and they will get a person on the phone who will help them to understand their diagnosis and, like I said, navigate through the processes that happen and help them to find the resources that they may need.
Yeah, a lot of women have these problems of fear, or maybe they don't know where or how they're going to get tested, or how they're going to get medical care, especially if they can't afford it.
That's
right?
exactly right. And so Komen does provide resources to really help allay some of those fears and to help people to understand the critical terms and terminology, as well as, like I said, the local resources that are available to them, including financial resources. So yes, you're exactly right.
So do you find that the major fear that women have is actually taking that first step to get a mammogram?
So I cannot personally speak to that because I have not personally experienced. I wouldn't want to overstate or understate what someone else's fear is with regard to breast cancer because it is unique to everyone. But I will say, and speaking empathetically, and I will defer to Hilary, but that once you get that first diagnosis, I do imagine that there is a great deal of fear, and as well as just wanting to know more information and how we can get help. But I will defer to Hilary.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to speak for anyone who's experienced breast cancer and understate or overstate anything they may experience.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Brandice. I'm sure there is fear for people getting a mammogram. There are also those people that have been very vigilant, started and kept up the routine and seen the benefit of doing it. But I do think as you get your diagnosis, that's when the first fear may set in. And then there's a direct correlation to how you move through the journey with the support that you can get, the resources, the information, the access to care. And Komen plays a huge role in providing a big arm of that support in addition to your friends and colleagues and community around you.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I was never fearful of getting a mammogram. I knew I had to do it and still doing it annually. So I wasn't fearful about that. And so For me, it was a surprise to hear that I had to go and see a breast cancer specialist. And when I was told that, it's like, oh no, I'm not going to get good news. But it still didn't scare me because I figured, well, I have to wait because getting a diagnosis, you have to go through other testing to make sure that it is positive, right? I mean, you got to go through a biopsy or an MRI or other special tests that you have to get. And so, and then once for me anyway, when I was told, it's like, oh my God, like I mentioned earlier, it was overwhelming information and rushing. But anyway, so yeah, so for me, I've always heard that women get very scared even just getting a mammogram because they're fearful of a diagnosis right there and then.
It's a big test. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there to diagnose as early as possible. So I'm sure
Yeah.
for them there is apprehension.
We know that annual screening for mammograms are the best tool that we have today to detect breast cancer early. When outcomes are generally better, treatment is less expensive, and we know that we can save more lives with an annual mammogram. We could do better when it comes to annual screening. Only 67% of women with insurance get a mammogram screening every year, and that national average drops to 35% of women who are uninsured or underinsured. So really, this is a really critical piece to understanding your risk if you can get your annual screening for a mammogram.
Brandice, I've been hearing that more younger women are getting mammograms now than before. Before, I think the age limit was starting at 40?
Yes. So the recommendation is still 40, but we still say that you should know your body and you should know your risk and you should know your family history so that you can be tested earlier if need be. We encourage that you partner with your care providers to understand what your risk is and then what the steps you should take for you personally for your health care, because every individual is different. But the screening guidelines are still 40 with the caveat that you understand what your own risk is. You can also be genetically tested to find out what your risk is in your family, and then use that information to really guide your decisions.
How difficult is genetic testing?
So I don't know. I can't answer that specifically because I know that you would have to work with your insurance providers and with your healthcare providers. But I can tell you that genetic screening does provide an array of information that can really be helpful for individuals. And it can truly be game-changing for anyone who does find out that they have a breast cancer risk and they can identify it early. It would help them to make future decisions. And then also to provide information to future generations about family history.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of different types of breast cancers as well, right?
So there are a number of types of breast cancers, some that are more aggressive than others for sure. But every cancer is serious, whether it is extremely aggressive or not, which is why we really encourage women to really partner with their caregivers and care providers to understand what the plan is for each of them individually.
When I was diagnosed, I didn't know that. I thought that having breast cancer meant you did a self-check or went and got a mammogram and you had a little tumor and that was it. I didn't realize that there were so many different types. But everybody's is an individual. And so there's different treatments and different things that you can do.
Yes, we definitely would say there are tumors that can be detected by that you can find yourself. But this is why we also say know your body, and really, if there is anything that doesn't seem right, that you should really truly advocate for yourself with your care providers and seek the help that you need, because there are cancers that are not detectable with a physical test. And so that is also why those annual tests really provide a plethora of information for people to use for their decisions, for the help decisions.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I went and got my annual test mammogram. And then what they found was that I had little cells coming out from a milk duct, which is what's it called, the DCIS. And so even if I was doing self-check, I wouldn't have noticed. There was nothing there. There was no tumor, nothing that I could feel that would be different, that would tell me, hey, you have breast cancer. So catching it early, which is what we want, is really important. That's why mammograms exist. They keep us healthy. And so I also want to share that I had a friend who had a different type of breast cancer. Hers was a very aggressive type. It was called, I'm trying to remember where her breast turned red. And unfortunately and sadly, she passed away because it's a very rare cancer. And there was not much they could do for her. So I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you. So, I mean, knowing some of these stories and hearing about different ways that we need to check ourselves, I can't stress enough how important that is to make sure that you get your mammograms. So, what are some of the risks that women have or symptoms that women have other than the little tumors?
So I can't speak for all breast cancers because I'm not an oncologist, but I will say any swelling that women experience, any inflammation, any tumors, inverted nipples as well. Anything that is unusual in the breast can be a symptom or sign of a cancer. And so we encourage, I know I keep saying this, know your body. Anything that is inconsistent with how you always are, some physical indicators that can really lead to early detection and making sure that we get the help that you need. But I would say inflammation, inverted nipples, tenderness, tumors, mistreatment, breasts, and pain. Absolutely.
So how can we prevent, I know you're not a doctor, but are there ways that we can maybe prevent this happening to us?
Well, I can say really knowing your risk is really at one of the of utmost importance. So, for example, we know that Black women in the United States have the highest breast cancer mortality of all other racial and ethnic groups. Black women are 40% more likely to die from breast cancer than white women. And we see this reflected in other communities as well. So I would make sure, as a way to identify risk so that we can be as proactive about healthcare as possible, would be to know what are the risk groups for the ethnic groups that we represent, as well as the areas and locales that we live in, as well as just knowing your family history and knowing or if you don't know your family history, learning your family history or starting it today by going to get the screening that you need and identifying what your risk is. And that can also, again, be through genetic testing if anyone is concerned. But again, we know that annual screenings for mammogram are the tool that we have to detect breast cancer early, and earlier detection equals better outcome, which equals less expensive treatment. And we know that more lives can be saved.
Has the organization found that in the past 40 years, there's been a little bit of decline in diagnosis?
I would say that our research efforts have helped to contribute to 42% reduction in the breast cancer mortality rate since 1989. There have been 19 new drug approvals in the past decade, and Komen has really played a role in the development of each drug through what we are investing in research. Since our inception, we have invested nearly $1.1 billion, more than any other nonprofit, second only to the U.S. government, in contributing to discoveries and improving outcomes and driving research towards cures.
Yeah, that's why your organization is so important. At least to me, it's super important because you have made a difference in women's lives, saved a lot of lives as well.
Thank you. Our mission is really committed to saving lives by meeting the most critical needs of our communities. So investing in breakthrough research and in order to prevent and cure breast cancer is Komen's mission.
Brandice, also, recently I heard that doctors now have to tell you that you have dense tissue. What does that mean?
So the density in your breast tissue can help you to understand how easy or difficult it is to find abnormalities in your breast. So if you're able to understand, and again, I'm not an oncologist, that's going to be my disclaimer,
Right.
but understanding the density in your tissue can also then inform what your care plan is for detecting cancer in your breast.
Yeah. So to me, it sounds like if they tell you that you have dense tissue, you have to go through other testing other than the mammogram to make sure you're okay.
Yes, it could be, but again, every individual was different. But knowing how dense your tissue is will definitely inform what your future care plan is.
So, Hilary, I want you to share your story with us because you've been doing great.
My story is that I was involved with Komen for many years. I got involved with Komen probably 20 years ago, and it really was being invited to the Race for the Cure by a group that was supporting a fellow colleague at work who had breast cancer. And then over the years, I continued to attend that race. It was an unfortunate statement that each year I was walking for someone else, which showed that the cancer was still being diagnosed. And about 9 years ago, I became involved with Komen locally in terms of being part of their local board and now their executive council. I was so impressed with the work they were doing and felt it was a mission that would align with I wanted to give back into one aspect of the community. I have no history of breast cancer in my family. I was a very healthy individual, and I was diagnosed during COVID. So many people did not get their mammograms during COVID. And I actually was very vigilant in going in, and they found something that I would not have found until it had grown. And I was diagnosed with triple negative cancer, which is a very aggressive breast cancer. I was extremely fortunate in that the executive director at Komen, I was able to reach out and get all kinds of information and direction. And I was also extremely fortunate in that my biopsy was done at MD Anderson, and the MD Anderson team deployed in my care. And because triple negative is so aggressive, they, of course, moved very quickly. And I was rapidly moved from diagnosis into treatment, going through treatment throughout COVID. It was a different experience. You weren't able to have anyone with you. You were alone. So that was a very fundamental difference for people going through it. You were even isolated from others in the hospital. So where you might have been sitting next to people, we were all isolated because of the COVID restrictions. MD Anderson was absolutely phenomenal in that they held conference calls with my family to keep them updated. They had moved and deployed very quickly in the COVID environment to figure out how to create the same community, the same outreach, and the same support, albeit virtually. And they did a phenomenal job. I will never forget how they treated us and cared for us during that time. I had a 14-month treatment plan, and I was very fortunate to be highly responsive to the chemotherapy that I had early, which gives triple negative breast cancer patients a very good prognosis going forward. And as I progressed through each of the phases of treatment, I was very fortunate in terms of what my long-term prognosis looks like. 5 years is a very important marker for triple negative. And I'm marching towards that and continuing to reach out and support other individuals going through this, continuing to support very strongly the mission of Komen, which I believe deeply in. And I'm proud to say that I'm co-chairing the Race for the Cure for the third year in a row. It's a powerful, inspirational race that annually just brings together in a magnificent way the recognitions, the acknowledgments, the celebrations, and the somberness of the fact that we have a long way to go and we need a lot of committed people after this. I walk always on behalf of hoping that my daughter and my granddaughter will see huge improvements in the breast cancer fight as they grow. And it's a journey that we have a lot of work still to do. So I'm very passionate about it.
So, well, Hilary, thank you so much for sharing your story. Appreciate it very much. And hopefully people, including not just women, but men as well, make sure that they follow your suggestion to go out and get checked and make sure that they stay healthy. So, Brandice, do you need volunteers over at the Komen Foundation?
Oh, we can always use volunteers. We are a nonprofit organization, and we do a lot of work in the community. So if there are men or women who'd be willing to volunteer, not just for our events, but to be ambassadors and educators in the community, absolutely, we welcome you. We also have very event-specific and for opportunities as well. So I think there's something for everyone if they are interested. And they can reach out to me or they can reach out to Helen and we can find a place for you.
Yeah, I know I had a volunteer come to my home after the surgery and everything, and he helped me a lot. We talked a lot about a lot of different things, what to expect the following weeks. So she was very helpful. I was very grateful for her. And so how else can we help Komen?
Well, Komen is an organization. Our mission is within the community. So you can help us with our local community mission work, which is what I talked about. We also have advocacy work that we do at the state level to advocate for patient care. We can also donate to Komen. We fund a lot of research and grants that really create advances for cancer. But our researchers need funding to do that as well. So I would say volunteer, be involved, advocate, or become a donor to Komen so that we can continue the work that we do on a larger scale.
Well, to find out more, because there's a lot of information that not just for women, but for men as well, you have this amazing website and whatever you need to know, you can find there. Or as I mentioned earlier, the helpline. So can you give us your website?
So our website is komen.org, KONEN.org. And we also have the Susan G. Komen Breast Care Helpline. And you can call 1-877-465-6636, or you can email the helpline at komen.org. And they will answer questions about breast cancer risk, emotional support and guidance, access to no-cost or low-cost screenings for mammograms, financial assistance, you name it. They are a wonderful group of navigators who are really dedicated to helping the community with breast cancer.
Is this a 24-hour helpline?
So the helpline is not 24 hours. It is Monday through Thursday, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And Spanish is available, as is anyone who needs TTY for hearing assistance.
And this helpline is also good for caregivers as well, right?
Absolutely. It is geared towards helping anyone navigate through their breast cancer journey. And it can also include caregivers as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of friends or families want to know what's going on with you and what you're going through so they can provide all the help that you can get.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brandice and Hilary.
Thank you for having us.
I really appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful that you were here. So, Hilary, again, grateful that you're well and that you're doing great, and for sharing your journey with us. So much information, and women and men need to realize that they're not alone going through this journey. If they have to go through this journey, they have someone there that can provide the support. And wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you as always for joining me. And please make sure that you stay healthy and that you go and get your mammograms and that you call Komen if you need any information. And please send me your comments. And if you have any story ideas, please let me know.